Now that we've talked about how to read graphic novels and what they are, I'll give you a list of 10 of my recommended graphic novels for adolescent readers. This first one here is Anya's Ghost. It's a story about a young girl who finds a bone and ends up being haunted by a ghost, and it's actually pretty scary. So if you're into supernatural stories, this might be the one for you. Chew is actually a collection of an ongoing comic book series that will eventually have 12 books, although right now only 9 are out. It's in an alternate world where avian bird flu has swept the world and chicken is outlawed. And the guy you see on the cover, he's an agent for the FDA, because the FDA, because of all this bird flu, has taken great prominence. So it's kind of like a cop story, except for he's got a superpower that anything he tastes, he knows the entire history of. So he eats things to kind of get clues and realize things. It's a pretty interesting concept, and it gets really crazy really quick. But that's a book that you might be into. Ghostopolis is another good adolescent book, I would think, a graphic novel. And it's about a young boy who accidentally ends up being sent to the world of the dead. And he finds that living people, when they're in that dead space, actually have superpowers and can control things and actually be in charge. And it's an interesting book because he meets all kinds of other ghosts, and he spends a lot of time with his grandfather, who he didn't really know. And he also finds that there's at least one other person there who's alive, and they have issues. Plus, on the other side, the person who accidentally sent him to that world is trying to find him too. So it's a really interesting book with lots of, it's lots of biographical connections, I believe, because it's pretty. I found it very moving. Anyway, I know with Common Core standards and other educational movements right now, nonfiction is being more and more brought to the fore. This book, Primates, is about 3 different women, Jane Goodall, Diane Fossey, and Birute Galdinkis, and they all study different primates, like the title says. Goodall studies chimps, Fossey studies gorillas, and Galdinkis studies orangutans. And based on their work, it's a very interesting book. The artwork is very colorful and attractive, I think. And if you're into science graphic novels, the author, Jim Adiavani, yeah, I said that right. He is a go-to guy because he's got 6 or 7 good graphic novels in different scientific fields. So there's that. If you like more science fiction-y type books that are also semi-realistic, Morning Glories is another comic book series that exists in various graphic novel form. It's about a bunch of kids. They're high school kids. They all go to this special private school where they find they don't apply. It's very prestigious, but the school actually asks them to go. And after a while, they start to realize lots of different things, like they all have the same birthday, like the exact same birthday. And their teachers seem to be testing them and lying to them and actually putting their lives in danger frequently. So it's a really interesting, kind of intriguing book full of lots of mystery. And a lot of the adolescents that I've talked about graphic novels with, they really like this series. Circling back to nonfiction, this here is One Dead Spy, and it's the first entry in Nathan Hale's Hazardous Tales, which are a series of nonfiction graphic novels drawn by a guy named Nathan Hale, who is not related to the Revolutionary War hero. This book is about the Revolutionary War. The sequels are about different things. The second one is about the Battle of the Merrimack and the Monitor during the Civil War. The third one is about the Donner Party and their horrific trip across the American West. And the fourth one is about World War I, which is, I think, probably the best one out of all of them. And what I really like about these books is that they are very informative. They're packed full of information and people and footnotes and things like that. But at the same time, they're very funny and engaging. So out of all the books I was showing you, this is one of my favorites. So there's that. If I were teaching U.S. history or U.S. government, this would be my go-to book as a graphic novel. It really does an excellent job of tying together the Constitution as well as various moments in U.S. history that go along with different sections, different amendments. It's a really fascinating and informative book, and I like the art in it too. Not as much as Nathan Hale, but I do like this book a lot. If you're more into literature and fiction, this one is the first of a series. I think there's 3 books right now called Kill Shakespeare. And this I'd probably gear more towards high school just because that's typically when they read Shakespeare. But the setup is that on one side there is Lady Macbeth, Richard III, and Iago. And they are trying to find this guy named Shakespeare because he's got this magic pen that controls their world. On the other side is Juliet, Othello, and Falstaff. And they are looking to convince this guy Hamlet, who shows up in the middle of everything, to be on their side. Hamlet's kind of the wishy-washy one who doesn't know quite what to do, but he's probably the guy who knows where Shakespeare is. So it's a really interesting and intriguing book. It's got lots of Shakespeare references if that's your thing. Battling Boy is probably the closest book to superhero comics that I'm going to talk about on this list anyway. It's about this, well, his name is Battling Boy, and he gets put on this planet as kind of his proving time. He's from a family of gods, and when they turn to a certain age, they have to go out on their own and do things. Battling Boy's dad sends him to this planet where there's giant monsters attacking people. So he's got to fight a lot of monsters. And his only tool, his only weapon is actually, he's got 10 or 12 t-shirts, and on each t-shirt there is a different picture of a different animal, and he gets powers according to that shirt. But the stronger the animal, the more flimsy the shirt. So he's got to be really selective about what he chooses. It's really engaging. The artwork is great, and I just love this book. And finally on my list is this book by George O'Connor. It's the first in his series of Olympians books, and there's 7 of them so far, and I would recommend any of them and all of them. They're all excellent. Each one focuses on a different god and tells an anthology of myths that go along with it, that god. So this one has a lot about the creation of the universe, and then how the Olympians and the Titans have a war, and how Zeus gets his lightning. So it's pretty fascinating because he updates all the myths and he puts his own spin on them. And I won't say that he makes them adult, because this book is really aimed at middle school students or upper elementary students even. But he's very faithful to the original stories, and he's got lots of footnotes and explanations, and this is just an all-around great book. So that's the last one on my list, and I hope that you found this helpful. Have a good day.